What happens when somebody debates Dr. Ken Berry's carnivore diet? I'm Dr. Eric Westman, and on this channel we review and debunk YouTube misinformation about diet and health. If you don't have my top 10 tips on how to start keto the right way, please look in the description below. So this is an interview with Dr. Ken Berry. Dr. Berry has a prominent following and teaches the carnivore diet. I've met Dr. Berry before, and he is in clinical practice in Tennessee and has the years of using the diet in a clinical practice, which I respect a lot. And wait till the end of the video and I'll tell you my final thoughts.
Today I'm going head to head with Dr. Ken Berry about the carnivore diet and arguments against the carnivore diet, oftentimes from well-meaning grandmothers and aunts and uncles, but they'll say stuff to you and you'll be like, what would Dr. Berry say in this situation?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to do a rapid fire with you right now.
Sure.
Okay, here's the first one. Number one, carnivore diet is way too restrictive. Life is too short to sacrifice ice cream and social outings for a carnivore diet that'll make me a joyless hermit.
Yeah, my answer to that would be if the food that you eat on a daily basis is the most enjoyable thing of your day, I don't envy your life. The thing that gives me the most happiness is family and friends and career, helping people, not the food that I eat. I eat food for nutrition, and I think that's what we should all do. Now, I don't think anybody would argue that a ribeye is not delicious, and I look forward to eating it, but that's not the highlight of my day. Food is nutrition.
That was a big change for me at some point where I'm like, I'm no longer eating for entertainment. If I'm eating for entertainment, that's almost like a drug. Like I'm trying to get amusement out of eating.
Right.
Well, but at the same time, I do miss certain things if I would just be eating a carnivore diet. So perhaps you can be less restrictive and still get the health benefits. Although some people say that it's easier to not eat all those carbs, just to have the meat, for example, because it's simpler. You don't have to worry about all those other things. But I don't know, I prefer an approach that allows you to have other foods than just meat.
100%, yeah.
I appreciate it more though. It's not like an addiction, it's an appreciation. So Dr. Berry, am I supposed to believe there's some big, huge conspiracy theory? My entire life I was told, eat your vegetables, and everyone is told, avoid fat, eat low fat. Everything I was told was just lies?
I don't think there's a conspiracy, but I do think that there are perverse incentives at each step in the food chain, so that what you wind up with at the end is a high carb, high sugar, shelf life stable food that can be transported all over the world. And everybody, if they fib just a little, it's not a blatant outright lie, and it's not some global conspiracy theory, it's just a little fib at each step along the way. And at the end, what you get is a population where 90% of people are metabolically ill. Over half of people are overweight or obese. Obviously, there's a problem. I don't think anybody can argue that. But I mean, you don't have to blame a conspiracy for something that you can equally blame on incompetence and ignorance and greed. And I think that's what got us here.
Well, so I guess what's the difference between greed in lots of different areas and a conspiracy theory? I don't know. I do agree with Dr. Berry that the financial incentives are there to create and produce and distribute food that's cheap and unhealthy, I'm afraid. So I agree with Dr. Berry on that one.
This is a big one. Everyone gets this one. The carnivore diet's high saturated fat content raises LDL cholesterol. You're gonna die of a heart attack. It's gonna clog your arteries. You can't eat only meat.
Yeah, so thousands of people are eating only meat right now in the United States. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands around the world. There is no scientific study that has proven that red meat causes cancer or heart disease or any other negative health outcome. We have been eating red meat as a human species for exactly the same number of days as we've been drinking water and breathing air. And so when you say, oh, red meat's bad for you, that should be the same exact thing as saying, oh, breathing air is bad for you or drinking water is bad for you. We've been doing all three for exactly the same number of days as a species. So there's no scientific proof that red meat causes heart disease or cancer or anything else, and we've been eating red meat for just as long as we've been breathing air and drinking water, how's that a problem?
Can't argue.
Well, I don't know. I think that's kind of extreme. And I know Dr. Berry very well, and he would argue back with me, and that's fine. But just because you've eaten red meat for all of human history doesn't mean it couldn't be a problem today. I think what he's doing is trying to balance everything we've been trained and taught to believe, that saturated fat is bad and that red meat is bad. I don't believe that's true anymore. The science doesn't support that. I go along with that with Dr. Berry. However, then to go to say just because a lot of people are doing a carnivore diet doesn't mean that it's safe and healthy. So it's not only family and friends and neighbors who might give you grief. The medical world, my fellow doctors at a university say, where's the evidence, where's the data about carnivore diets? And there isn't much. So there are some surveys of people who self-describe following a carnivore diet, and that's not good enough. So I want more science to be collected. And right now, basically, you have to follow your own health information if there's no science to direct you. So that if you're feeling well and you're following a diet like this, you want to measure the things that we typically measure in terms of health. And I think Dr. Berry's a little bit, how should I say, on his high horse when he says there's no evidence that the carnivore diet's bad. Well, show evidence that it's good. And I think that's going to come. I'm cautiously optimistic about it because the short-term view of it is pretty good, but until there's the long-term view, we really don't know.
Okay, here's one. I would love to do carnivore diet if I were only rich. Who are these people eating only steaks all day? Meat is so expensive.
Yeah, so there's multiple ways to get meat cheap. You can buy it on sale. Ground beef is fine. I think even the cheaper cuts of meat, they're just as nutritious, just as uninflammatory. You don't have to have a $40 a pound Wagyu ribeye. It doesn't have to be that. You can buy the 10-pound pack of 70/30 ground beef. That's just as healthy as the expensive meat. You can do carnivore with hot dogs and bologna and ground beef and sardines, all of which are super cheap. It doesn't have to be expensive. And also what most carnivores find is that they go from eating 3 meals a day and snacks in between, which each one of those costs something,
right,
to eating 1 or 2 meals a day with no snacks. So many carnivores report that their food bill's actually less now as a carnivore as it was back when they were eating the standard American crap.
Yeah. That's my case, and I'm eating way better. People don't do that.
Yeah, so that's a good point, that it doesn't have to be expensive to eat a low-carb or meat-based kind of approach. In fact, you end up eating less, especially if you're trying to lose weight or reverse diabetes. You're eating less over time, and it actually can be less expensive. You're purchasing less food. So carnivore doesn't have to be expensive. Totally agree with that.
Honest math, because before standard American diet, you'd always be hungry 2 hours later.
Exactly.
I would do carnivore diet, but I don't want to be constipated the rest of my life. Humans need fiber.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest myths out there. And many doctors earnestly believe this in their heart of hearts, that you will, I guess, constipate to the point of death and explode if you don't have fiber in your diet. First of all, there's no physiological pathway. For doctors who understand physiology, what's the pathway? Where's the physiology? There is none, right? That's not how the human digestive system even works to start with. Secondly, as I said earlier, there are hundreds of thousands of carnivores all over the world, and no one has exploded in a atomic shit blast because they were so constipated they blew up. It's not happening. Carnivores actually have fewer bathroom problems. They have fewer colon problems than people who are eating a high carb, high sugar, high fiber diet.
Well, so most people will eat a carnivore or low carb diet and go to the bathroom less often. You're more efficient. And I've often thought if you wanted a situation where you want people to be more efficient and have less waste, then you want to use a low carb diet because there is more efficiency, so there's less waste. But I have to agree, the idea that you need fiber is one of these things that kind of makes sense, but when it got studied scientifically, adding fiber in randomized controlled trials didn't really do anything in terms of improving health, reducing colon cancer or colon function. So, well, this really wasn't an argumentative kind of debate. It turns out Healing Humanity himself used a carnivore diet to have great improvement in his health. And he highlighted the top things that people have against carnivore diets. And I would have added in, where's the paper? Where's the scientific publication? I still think it's important to have that, to have a systematic view, collecting information on people. If you do surveys and you do internet sort of work, you don't get all of the information. We do need more clinical trials on a carnivore diet. In the meantime, be sure to just follow your own health markers. But all in all, I like what Dr. Ken Berry says, although he does kind of do the extreme, I don't know about, exploding of a colon constipation issue. That's a little too far-fetched for me, but I think that's a good response to the common criticisms about a carnivore diet. If you please subscribe so you don't miss out on further content. If you don't have my top 10 tips on how to start keto the right way, look in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and check out AdaptYourLifeAcademy.com.